Tension rises as Brian Schatz presses Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on a controversial topic, glyphosate safety. What starts as a calm policy discussion quickly turns into a sharp confrontation, exposing contradictions, political pressure, and unanswered concerns about public health.
Ranking Member, Secretary, good to see you. We just had a series of storms and flooding events, and President Trump just signed a major disaster declaration. In particular, the Kula Hospital has 105 long-term senior care beds, and it's not any longer operational. The governor just submitted a request for a public health emergency declaration. Do I have your commitment to work together to make sure there's continuity of care for all the people who have been impacted by the floods?
You do, Senator, and my staff is already working with the governor's office to make sure that happens as expeditiously as possible.
Thank you very much. I want to ask you about glyphosate. I know you have deep experience in this area, so I'm going to ask you a couple of factual questions to the best of your knowledge. Does glyphosate cause cancer?
Yes.
Is it healthy for people to be around?
I would say no. It's not healthy for them to consume.
Is it safe to use?
You mean safe, or does it kill weeds? It kills weeds. And
is it safe for humans to use?
I would say it's important to minimize consumption of glyphosate as much as possible.
You are being uncharacteristically diplomatic about glyphosate. I'll just say it that way.
I don't think I'm being diplomatic. I just said it caused cancer, which
okay, fair enough.
Kills people.
You know, I didn't vote for you for confirmation. I'm sure you're tracking that. I got a lot of friends back in Hawaii who supported you because of issues such as this. And they were hurt, shocked, confused when you were explicitly in favor of Trump's executive order. And I'll just quote you in a tweet. I support President Trump's executive order to bring agricultural chemical production back to the United States and end our near total reliance on adversarial nations. I'm just wondering, what would you say to those folks who were kind of animated by this idea that we are too reliant on these dangerous chemicals, and then the president does a thing, and obviously you and the president are not generally always on the same page about everything, but this seemed like an opportunity for you to really stand up for your agenda, especially given your successful litigation in this space. And so just wanted to give you a chance to speak to those people back home who are very animated by glyphosate, but also the rest of the sort of agenda around reducing our exposure to toxic chemicals.
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked that question. I was very clear with the president about my own displeasure with the executive order. The president felt it was necessary for national security reasons. Actually, the proposal came from the Pentagon. And the reason for that is a problem that President Trump didn't create, which is that 97% of corn production in our country is reliant on glyphosate. 98% of soy production is about 80% of agriculture production. According to the industry, 100% of that is coming from China. You have an adversary that could literally shut down the American food supply overnight. There was another issue, which is elemental phosphorus is also produced in the mining process, and that also is controlled by Congress or by China, and it is a critical resource for weapons production.
Yep. Okay.
And so his executive order does not increase the use of glyphosate. All it says is as long as we're dependent on it, we're going to make it here. He's authorized my agency to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to look for alternatives so we can transition off of glyphosate as quickly as possible.
Just final question. When we met in this hearing room last year, we talked about placebo-controlled trials. I said, and I'll quote myself, you know the placebo-controlled trials are in the existing vaccine approval process. Are you suggesting something different from that? And you said, I do not think it is ethical to go back and test approved vaccines against a placebo. But in December of last year, CDC posted a notice in the Federal Register awarding $1.6 million to, quote, study the optimal timing and delivery of monovalent hepatitis B vaccinations in newborns in Guinea-Bissau, activities that will include conducting a randomized control trial. So there's a contradiction here. I know it was removed from the Federal Register. What happened?
There's no contradiction. And we hope to go forward with that trial. The hepatitis B vaccine was tested for 4 days. That we're giving to hundreds of millions of kids. It was no placebo in that, so we have no idea what the risk factors are. In Guinea-Bissau, they don't give the birth dose. They're going to start giving it in 2028. We asked the government of Guinea-Bissau, can we go there with the proper INDs, all the ethical guidances, and give it to 14,000 kids a year early.
And not give some, and have a placebo group.
It's not our job to give it to the whole country. We can give it to 14,000 kids early, which helps them. And then we have a placebo group. For the first time in history, we can actually look at the
placebo
impact.
group that doesn't get the medicine. This is the thing we talked about before, and I thought we were on the same page, and I thought the entire medical establishment was on the same page. We may disagree about the efficacy of certain vaccines, but we have all agreed, all of us, that you do not withhold medicine, especially from children.
We're not withholding it. We're giving it to people who otherwise wouldn't receive it.
And then there's a control group that doesn't get the medicine.
Well, they weren't going to get it anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
Nobody in the country was going to get it.
Well, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go to...
The exchange highlights a growing divide between political leadership and scientific clarity. Senator Brian Schatz opens with straightforward questions about glyphosate, expecting direct answers. Instead, what follows is a cautious and measured response from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that raises more questions than it resolves. Glyphosate, widely used in agriculture, has long been at the center of debates in public health and environmental science. While some studies suggest potential cancer risks, regulatory bodies have offered mixed conclusions. This makes clarity from leadership not just helpful, but essential. Schatz's frustration reflects a broader concern. The public deserves straight answers. Kennedy's response, acknowledging risks while avoiding absolute conclusions, comes across as politically careful. When Schatz remarks, "You are being uncharacteristically diplomatic," it captures the exact moment the tone shifts. The hearing becomes less about data and more about credibility. The conversation also exposes a deeper issue, the intersection of national security and public health policy. Kennedy explains that reliance on foreign chemical production, particularly from geopolitical rivals, complicates the issue. This adds another layer, where safety concerns collide with economic and strategic realities.